This is Why Small Business Matters, a podcast from Newcastle Business School at Northumbria University, supporting small businesses with the Help to Grow management programme.
Hello and welcome back to Why Small Business Matters. My name is Matt Sutherland, and in today's episode we discuss the art of marketing and deep dive into how your small business can deliver successful marketing and attract new business.
First point, Facebook, friends, family, and then take that into the more kind of probably corporate channels of LinkedIn. Networking events, they're your places to go, because I think I touched on it earlier, it's going to build your confidence to talk about your business and who you are and what you're doing.
That was the voice of Paul Hart, established marketeer and founder of design agency Cargo. Paul has a national reputation in marketing and founded his own agency in 2009. It goes without saying that he has a proven track record when working with small and large firms, delivering brand experiences and digital solutions to help businesses maximise their market presence. Work that hasn't gone unnoticed, winning Marketing Agency of the Year at the 2023 Northeast Marketing Awards. Welcome to the podcast. I've been looking forward to speaking to you today because many of the small businesses that I work with, I often get the impression that actually when they talk about this concept of marketing, that actually it is something that they're not necessarily that comfortable with. They don't really understand probably the core premise of marketing. So just as a starter for 10, what is marketing?
What is marketing? That's a pretty wide question, isn't it? And I think there's a few answers to that. Marketing is the culmination of a lot of different activities, I think, for small businesses and for large businesses as well. We talk a lot with our clients around the brand consistency. We talk about, obviously, digital content and websites, and then you might talk about your social channels. And as an agency, what we try to do is enable our clients to get consistency across all of those, so that any users or audience is going to see the same theme, the same values that are coming through at any point in time. I think one of the challenges that some people have is that they maybe think, I can get a website up in a couple of weeks and there you go, I'm doing my marketing. Or, I've got a really good new logo, my marketing's sorted. When the reality is there's a lot of these pinpoints that need to kind of work together to pull into a strategic kind of comms and marketing plan. So for me, I think there's unfortunately a multiple of areas that need to be touched on. It might not be that there's one particular area that does everything. There might be a couple. But over time, I think by working probably with a consultancy such as ourselves or within a team, you can start to work out what are those channels that are working for you, which ones are relevant, and where do you get most traction from.
I think people are probably comfortable thinking about high street brands or automotive brands, but when they're thinking about their own brand, do you come across some sort of common mistakes when people sort of look inwards about their own brands, or do you need to steer them in some form of direction?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the first starting points is kind of understanding the values of the company. What the company's there for, what are you delivering for your audience, and essentially how that's going to affect them on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, the end goal is to generate leads, right, and to help your business grow. So yeah, I think one of the key things that you have to do is understand why you're there, what is it that you offer, and what the USP is. We talk a lot at the minute, and we might come back to it later on, actually, around content. And it's one of the most common themes that we think about and talk about with clients, because it's often like, that content bit, we can kind of shoehorn that in at the end. And more often than not now, we're absolutely sitting with clients earlier on and asking them to think about content earlier, because it can't just be an afterthought. And that content kind of streams from the key messaging and the sales messages that you want to put out to your audience. And that kind of then filters down. So yeah, I think that would be one thing. I think a lot of people tend to put to the bottom of the list when really it should be right at the top of the list to think about what the content plan is.
I talked to a small business where they say, well, I've got the website, and they've crossed it off their list. And actually what they're doing is they're crossing marketing off their list. They've done it. They've got the website, it's on, it's live, and we'll do something else. So actually what you're saying is that marketing is not static. It's actually something which is progressive. It takes energy. It takes effort to get right. So how important is this sort of development of a plan and kind of working proactively to market your brand?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of ever grown, really. It's similar. You can talk about this in all places. Obviously, we could work with a client just on a brand identity or a brand framework piece. It might roll into a digital piece. It might roll into a marketing plan or a digital marketing plan. But I do feel that almost getting that right at the very start, and making sure that you have a framework to work to, and it's a backbone. It's not said and done and never finished. The brand guideline document will always grow because you will always come across something that needs to be included in there. The website will not be finished because you'll always have some new content that you want to add to that, or there might be a new market space that you move into, or a new revenue stream that you want to promote. That always has to be included. So I think forever kind of looking to the future and future-proofing the activity that you do is key, and not thinking that, as you say, I've got that list and I've ticked everything off and it's done. It's probably a bit like the time bridge. Once you've got to one end, you kind of want to start doing it again. When in reality, you want to continue to keep kind of ticking away at it.
How easy are those conversations though, Paul? Because I can imagine, listening to you, I'm bought in, and I'm convinced with that kind of culture of working and being really proactive with marketing. But do you sometimes find that actually many firms can actually not necessarily be on that wavelength? And do they require a bit of convincing, or what kind of language even do you have to use to get them onto that kind of rhetoric around the importance of marketing?
Yeah, I think understanding clients and the way their business works is key. And we'll always say to people, we'll never know your business as well as you do. Often, early on in the start of Cargo, we used to work with quite a lot of sort of engineering firms, mechanical firms, and manufacturing, and they were quite stuck in their ways and quite old school. And it was kind of like, well, we've got this website and we're getting leads and we're busy, so why do we need to do any more? And I think then you start to highlight them, talk to them about, but there's other opportunities out there, and we can show you that there's other opportunities there. And that's when that technology piece comes in of, there's a number of different softwares and tools that we can use to help highlight, look, there are people that are looking for your product and service online, and we can help you get in front of them. And it often only takes one piece, and then the penny will drop. And it's like, right, I get this now. Can we look at a bit more, or can we do something new or different? I think it's interesting to understand their language, try and understand their business as much as we can, and then apply our expertise that we've sort of experienced across other clients and bring it to their table and see what we can do together.
I love the way you say, Paul, that it's kind of evidence-based. Is that easier to do now with the sort of boom in digital? I remember 20 years ago working in marketing, and really you only knew if your advert was successful if the phone rang, because you had the phone number at the bottom. And I don't mind telling you, I put the wrong telephone number on before, and of course the phone doesn't ring and it's unsuccessful. But how important is having kind of analytical data now at your fingertips to be able to go to clients and say, actually, we've positioned yourself here, we've dabbled a little bit into marketing, and actually let's look at that response. Is that something that helps you in terms of your day job when working with clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can look at trends, and obviously we can look at offline activity and map that against online. So, if a client's carried out some offline stuff, and then you can look through analytics and see actually that has driven traffic to your website. It is beneficial that we can do that. And it does put it into kind of black and white, because it was always, that advert in the newspaper is today's news, but tomorrow's fish and chip wrapper. Whereas that's not the case anymore. And there is a footprint there, and we can track and measure and use that to show the good things as well as the bad things. And certainly, I think one thing for us is we don't ever want to kind of sell on fear. It's not a case of, look at all these red marks against this audit. It's really bad. You've got to do it now. And also, quite often the discussion that we'll have with clients is, sometimes you don't have to be absolutely number one on Google. Sometimes that's not where a particular audience type is looking. It might be that a really good LinkedIn strategy or content plan for social is a better way to do it. So again, it's working with the client and auditing what they're already doing and working with them over time, because you can't just take one broad sweep and solve everything at once. There has to be a strategic plan around it, and try and, pick off that classic kind of low hanging fruit first, and then and plan the attack, if you like, to go and execute further on down the line.
I wonder if you can give us a sense of channels, because I was reflecting sort of 20 years ago that when we thought about kind of marketing, it was really just the large firms that could get into traditional marketing. Paying rate card in a broadsheet newspaper, advertising on a 36 plus sheet billboard, you getting into that space. And actually this podcast is all about small business. And I know with digital, there are far more channels now that are available to small businesses when we think about marketing. What type of channels exist, and what kind of channels can small businesses sort of use and employ to market their firms?
Yeah, it's interesting. You talk about 36 sheets. That's going back really old school. So we'll maybe not go down that route. I think the beauty of where we are at the moment for small businesses is that activity can be executed pretty easily and pretty cost effectively as well. And you don't always have to come to a large agency to support you to do that. There's lots of tools out there now that people can use to get on board. And once they're up and running, then yes, you might want to come and ask for some advice. But realistically, for small businesses, social's a great starting point. One of the very common discussions we have is that old kind of Facebook versus LinkedIn, which is the right channel for you. More often than not, we're kind of talking about LinkedIn stuff with clients. So yeah, I think that's the beauty of it at the moment. People can get on board and start doing their own stuff really, really cost effectively early on.
When we talk about social media channels, they are different. They have got different personalities, haven't they? And you do talk about LinkedIn, and I wonder if you can explain a little bit more about what a LinkedIn audience is actually looking for compared to something like TikTok or Instagram, which has probably got quite a different feel than say LinkedIn, which would be good for many small businesses when marketing.
Yeah, it's really, again, you touch on something. I've got lots of thoughts going through my head at the moment around conversations that we've had with different clients. I'll be honest, we don't do anything across TikTok at the minute, so that's not a channel that we've kind of looked at. But we have got a client that produces and manufactures shower pumps, and would you believe there are influencers out there, that there's plumbing influencers that promote shower pumps and plumbing tools. It's unreal. In terms of LinkedIn, I think, again, thought leadership is really key. We had a conversation this morning with a client that is a large business, they're growing, and that ever increasing discussion of, when there's something that's newsworthy, that's come out one morning, you need to jump on that and get that thought leadership piece, the opinion piece out there on something that's happened. That is really kind of golden content. The challenge that they have, they're a regulated business. They can't just give staff kind of free rein to go out and start talking about whatever they want. So there are challenges there, depending on the size of business. And I think probably to come back around to your previous point of what can small businesses do, they're not restrained by that's kind of red tape. They can go out there and they can do it, and they can make those opinion pieces, they can comment, and they can really give their kind of thought leadership across LinkedIn really easily and build that network and effectively influence people. Obviously, once you get a little bit further into it, there's plans that you can put in place. I think it's really key to try and have a backbone of content, thinking about what you want to talk about, whether that's looking at the calendar across the year, knowing that you can post certain things at certain times, but certainly sharing expertise in particular and commentary really, really can benefit your brand and your overall plan.
I'm really pleased that you've touched on content, actually, Paul, because I want to sort of do a little bit of a deep dive, because a lot of the firms that I work with, actually, it's a confidence thing, that they say they don't necessarily know how to, maybe this isn't the right terminology, right journalistically, they don't necessarily know the tone of voice is right. And I just wonder if we first of all just touch on this notion of a content plan, because I'm sure many people listening to this would have sort of wondered and thought that ears pricked. Actually, that sounds interesting. What is a content plan?
So, content plan would be something that you've got your website, you've got your news section. Now, the worst thing with news sections is people feel under pressure to keep it up to date all the time, week in, week out. So, by taking a step back and thinking about a plan, trying to post regularly, not every single week, not every single day. You've got content that you can push on your website, content that you can push through socials, or both, and you can share. So I do think it's that idea of the plan is a backbone. Again, we're not talking that it's got to be set in stone. It's a backbone of content that you can, in downtime, write a little piece on, write an opinion piece, and share that. It might be relevant to something that's happening either in your industry or in the news, or it might just be, it is, I'm seeing something really common in the conversations that I'm having with clients. So I can talk about this because there's probably other people out there that are having the same challenges. So again, you mentioned content. It's just a massive discussion piece in our studio at the minute, because we've got projects that are challenged with, who's going to gather this content? How do you get that content? Do you need to go and get a specific content writer? Can you produce it in-house and more often than not, if we have a client that comes along and says, oh, we're going to write all this content ourselves, if you got a to-do list of 10 things in a day, I guarantee that writing content for your website is going to end up at the bottom. It's not going to stay at the top because the day will get in the way. So yeah, sorry, to come back to your original point around the plan, you can work with a 3-month plan, a 6-month plan, but having something in place is a really good way to start. And that can be added to, and it could be something that you do with your colleagues as well. Friday morning, have a coffee, right? What can we talk about over the next couple of months? Is there anything that people are talking to our clients around that is a challenge, or is there opportunities? Have we got a new business? Have we got a new revenue stream that we want to share about? I think it's important to try and get that done.
It's really interesting. I was laughing when you said that actually over the course of a day that could creep at the bottom of the to-do list, and I've seen that certainly happen before. Is that also potentially a bit of a fear thing? If they're not 100% comfortable on what they're going to say, it's easy to put it off. How do you support firms to sort of build a bit of confidence and ease them into pressing the button and commenting and putting something? I mean, because usually you're amongst your peers and you've got a network who you work in, and you don't want to put a foot wrong, really. So how do you approach that?
Absolutely, and I think it's probably important to say as well, as I'm talking about this, I'm panicking and thinking, when was the last time we posted on our own blog? And when was the last time I put something out on LinkedIn? Because we're probably the same. Our clients will come first, so our stuff will go at the bottom of the pile. We have a team of digital marketers and content writers that will sit and spend time with a client and talk them about, again, understand the business. And it is about baby steps. And again, it's a challenge for us as well. I really don't like the thought of being that guy who's constantly on LinkedIn banging that drum all of the time. It could be something really lighthearted that's gone on in the business. It might be an anniversary. We've been around for 5 years or 10 years or even just a year. That's an easier thing to start writing about than maybe it is around, okay, I'm gonna really put my expertise out there, because I'm a little bit nervous about putting my stamp on this in case I get battered. Chances are you're not going to get battered because everyone's looking for new, informative expertise coming from businesses.
What are the benefits for firms to put a content plan in place and to press the button and to post? What will that do, or what do you see that benefits to that? What benefits do you see that comes to the firms that are starting to be proactive in their marketing?
I think first of all, it's visibility, and it's not going to happen straight away. You're not going to post one piece onto, let's say, LinkedIn, and you're going to get 100 likes or 500 comments. It's not going to happen overnight, right? But by having some sort of plan in there, you can start to chip away at it. And this is about ultimately brand visibility in your marketing and how you put your company out there. Later on down the line, you can get more strategic about, okay, there's a certain product that we want to promote. We're going to do a piece on the website. We're going to have a landing page there. We're going to maybe put some paid activity behind it and drive traffic that way. And also we're going to get the managing director of the business to write a really kind of personal expertise piece that goes out on LinkedIn. That might be a step too far for a lot of people. So in the very first instance, baby steps and start talking about something you're comfortable with. And I think realistically, this is about positioning your brand and your company in the best way possible. And your expertise and quite honestly, the people from within the business are the best people to do that. And if it comes back that piece of, I've never wrote a piece before, how do I do that? Okay, just give us some bullet points. And then we can turn that into something that is readable. It's got, the start, the middle, and the end with a sign-off piece that might encourage someone to get in touch. And that's a really good way to start.
I get the feeling, and I'd be interested to get your sense on this too, Paul, because you're at the coalface. Are there firms that are kind of weaning back their marketing as the overheads start to increase? And what would you say to those organisations? Because actually, this is something that you've just highlighted as really important, and actually you should be proactive at. But if you've got people at the other end of the spectrum that are actually kind of weaning it off because they're trying to reduce their overheads, what's the fatal mistake behind that practice?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the classic, isn't it? Of the minute those budgets get cut, the first thing that goes is marketing. And I think the best advice I would give is don't do it. Fair enough, reduce it, and then you can go back to, okay, where's our key metrics? I think the old adage is, the best time to market is when you're very busy, because that lull will come. So there has to be a steady stream of activity that goes through. And The challenge is when those marketing budgets or any budgets get cut. As I say, marketing's often the first thing to go. For small businesses, it's slightly more luxurious because you probably don't have that point of X amount of budget that's just spent on marketing. And as we said earlier, it can be done at a very cost-effective way. So yeah, I think realistically, I would say don't stop altogether. Choose the ones that you can do either free or cost-effectively or in-house, but do keep going and keep chipping away.
You're listening to Why Small Business Matters. Find out how Northumbria University can help your business thrive through the Help to Grow management program. Delivered by leading small business and enterprise experts from Northumbria University, with the support of leading figures from industry and experienced entrepreneurs. The program supports senior managers of small and medium-sized businesses to boost their business's performance, resilience, and long-term growth. The 12-week program is 90% funded by the government, and the fee payable by participants is £750, and has been designed to allow participants to complete it alongside full-time work. The in-depth, high-quality curriculum supports you to build your capabilities in leadership, innovation, digital adoption, employee engagement, marketing, responsible business, and financial management. By the end of the program, you'll develop a business growth plan to help you lead your business to realize its potential. To find out more about the program, the modules, eligibility, and fees and delivery dates, go to northumbria.ac.uk/help-to-grow.
You're listening to Why Small Business Matters. My name's Matt Sutherland, and on today's episode, we are joined by Paul Hart, founder of Cargo. So in 2009, Paul, you took the big decision to set up your own firm, and Cargo Creative was born. Tell me a little bit more about that journey.
Yeah, sure. So I think going back a little way before that, I spent a bit of time in newspapers as a newspaper designer, and then I was a digital designer for BBC News. And so my background is kind of creative and design, rather than, I'm going to start a business and it's going to be a design agency. But yeah, in 2007, 2008, I kind of started doing freelance. And then we set up Cargo in 2009. I don't mind saying we set that up with there was another guy that I started with, and it went really well for about 18 months. Then I think we both started getting a little bit frustrated with the direction. We had different ideas, and we very, very amicably kind of separated and went our own separate ways. So yeah, we started in 2009, and we have from 2011, I've kind of grown the team from that point to 18 members of staff now. So that's 18 staff across design and creative, digital and development, and digital marketing. So yeah, we kind of cover those three areas. It's really interesting. Again, I was talking to a client this morning. They came in the office for the first time in the studio, and they kind of commented, "Oh, it's really nice," and they were asking that story. And I remember the first month where I said to my wife, as long as I transfer £1,500 from this account into this account, from the business account into the personal account, like, we're good, and let's see where it goes and see what happens. So yeah, it's quite nice to look back on it now.
Tell me a little bit about your agency, because you've just touched on those three core pillars that make up your business. And then there will be many people listening to this who like the sound of working with a marketing agency, but just don't have any experience. So just flesh those three areas out that you can support firms with. Yeah,
so effectively we're a kind of strategic design and creative agency. That's the way we would tend to describe ourselves. Originally, we started out doing sort of general graphic design, quickly grew into digital and brand, and then more recently we've added the sort of strategic marketing and digital marketing onto that. So we kind of can follow the full life cycle from the very start all the way through to a continual kind of developmental growth of a company. But that doesn't mean that we will only ever look for those big kind of tier one clients, if you like. We do work with small startups and scale-ups as well. And it might be that we just help out on a particular piece where they've got a certain product that they want to promote, or we might just do the identity piece because they've already got an existing partner that does the website. And that's fine with us because we're more than happy to collaborate with other partners along the way, which is really excellent. So yeah, we're kind of dipping in and out of those areas as and when a client needs it.
And can you give me a sense of the type of conversations that that you maybe have. And I love the way that you've been so transparent and saying, look, it's not just the big firms. We're meeting with smaller firms or even firms that are in the infancy of their business. What's a typical conversation like? Is it around just a bit of problem solving, around a bit of content? Is it also around the kind of strategic direction of a yearly plan? Give me a sense of those type of conversations.
Yeah, so the conversations that, as you know, can come in all kind of shapes and sizes. It might be that, recently we've won a piece of work where it's a rebrand. It's not particularly a full kind of digital build as well. It's essentially getting the brand set up because the organizations are, maybe 10, 15 years old, and they're just outgrown. They've kind of grown to a point where, that was fine at the start, but there was only 3 of us then, and now we're a 50-strong team. And actually the look and feel and the sort of values that we had in place there, the values are the same, but the sales message is very different because our client base has grown, that sort of thing. How can we present ourselves now to be where the company is now, not where it was, but still honor that kind of journey as well? So yeah, that would be one example. Another example would be we're literally starting for nothing. We've got a new company we're setting up, we're going to launch in 3 months' time. What do we need to get in place to get us up and running and going? And that'll be where that kind of brand piece really starts from scratch. And there's, the workshops, what are the values? How can we put this down? What does this look and feel like? Who are the competitors? And how we're going to take this thing to market and help you really get out there and push your business to succeed. And they're the really exciting, well, obviously every project's exciting, but finding someone who's kind of taken the leap and they're starting fresh is super exciting.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, Paul. If I put my academic hat on, if I go back, say, 30 years, if I were to look at some literature, your accountant would always be your trusted business advisor. And I'm sure, look, accountants are important, of course they are. But actually, from the conversations that we're having, the marketeer is equally as important as that trusted business advisor, because the conversations that you're having simply aren't just about the marketing; they're slightly broader than that, aren't they? And it's the decisions and the things and the topics that you're talking about are broader than simply advertising and content.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm very quick to kind of say that we don't work in one particular sector. Over the years, we've kind of grown to dipping out of lots of different sectors, but the skills and the expertise that we have can be applied to any one of those services or sector streams that you might be in. And one of the things that we do find quite often is we'll be sitting in a meeting and we sort of start talking about probably business decisions rather than marketing or brand or design decisions. And it's kind of like, I don't really feel 100% comfortable advising people on those business decisions that maybe their senior board should be doing. But at the same time, we have got experience, and more often than not, we've been through some of it before with other clients. And, trust and confidentiality, we can say, look, we've already worked with X company who's been through this very same process. This is where we would advise you look. Or, this is the way maybe forward. Here's another option. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Really interesting. I'm going down to see a business in Birmingham on Tuesday next week, and they are going through a journey at the moment that we do have another client's been through exactly the same thing, offering online training, completely different sectors, but they've got a platform that's been built and kind of like add it do, and actually they're at a point where we just need to draw a line. What is the messaging? How are we going to market here? Are we explaining well enough what we do to our users when they land on our website or when they see us online? So yeah, that's kind of like probably peeling back the skin a little bit with those guys and starting afresh, which is a really exciting journey.
Yeah, and I was saying to you, hinting as well that the Northeast Marketing Awards last year were very kind, because actually this work that you're doing has been formally recognised, hasn't it, in terms of Agency of the Year? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've not really been one to go and chase the awards. I'd have to say we're quite kind of underground and pretty sort of modest. And if our clients were happy, then we were happy. But yeah, last year I felt as though it was the first time that we, across the course of the previous 12 months, we really kind of covered all the right aspects to be able to confidently put forward for that sort of an award. And that be, whether it's delivering really good projects that are meaningful and they delivered success for our clients, it was also around growing the team. So I think we grew by kind of 7 or 8 members of staff in that year, new members of staff that came on board. We did a lot of kind of CSR work, supporting the YMCA in North Tyneside as well. So we kind of partnered with them last year to really spend time volunteering and helping out with the local community. So it just felt as though last year was the right time to put ourselves forward for that. And thankfully it was recognised with a win. So yeah, we've got the little recognition out in the front of the studio there to say that we're Agency of the Year. Under 20 employees, but now we're kind of touching 20. So let's see what happens next year.
One of the core themes from this podcast, and I'm thinking back 3 years ago, a lot of the key takeaways, including from Molly Barrett and Scott Gould, about being the importance of people and actually that business is a social sport and people do business with people. Is that something that you still find working in marketing? Actually starting a business, working with an agency, actually being around a good group of people is important?
Whatever is on the horizon, I think at the end of the day, with the way, if I can talk about my personal experience, the way I started was through friends and family, and that then spirals out. And I think that's still the case. Networking events, I know, the university events that are quite often on there. The best way to get out there and gain your confidence is to go and meet like-minded people and share your story and share what you're doing. There's so much opportunity out there, whether it's taking part in online webinars or thankfully face-to-face stuff's getting a lot more popular again now. That's a really good way to start. I think speaking to people and having conversations is key. And then if you can take that online, you can reach an even bigger audience. But just by doing it personally really is the best way to understand your tone of voice. And then you gain feedback as well, right? People can say, that's really interesting. And then you're building confidence and you grow, and then start maybe change your messaging a little bit. I had a conversation the other day, which I mentioned just a minute ago, might be controversial. I don't know. I think when I came through school, it was kind of like, get into computers, don't do a trade. And then lo and behold, tradesmen now are gold dust, right? Like, you get a good joiner, you want to keep hold of them and that sort of thing. So, to move that on in the next 5 to 10 years, I really think as a community or as families, as businesses, I do think communication is going to be key. And being able to talk and hold conversation and have that human interaction is probably going to be a bit of a superpower, some kind, when I was talking them. And I do think that almost goes kind of full circle. We've got so much technological advances at our fingertips and channels and all of that stuff. But I don't think we can forget that actually, connecting with people and talking about what you do and understanding needs, like, that's probably going to be a really key superpower or asset to anyone going into business. So I don't rely on AI. I would certainly think about that.
And when you talked about content and low-hanging fruit before, Paul, with LinkedIn, one of the easiest ways to generate a post on LinkedIn, of course, is to say, well, look who I've bumped into at this event, and take a picture of yourself, and showing that network, showing that kind of social capital, and posting it on LinkedIn is an easy option, isn't it? It's an easy win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is good to see some of that stuff going on now. Again, we went through that lull period where we couldn't get out and do the face-to-face, but there's so many different options around networking events now, whether it's agencies like ourselves who are maybe putting on talks or sessions for students who are coming through the industry, or indeed I saw something the other week, I don't know if I can name check them or not, like Chris Owens from Patton was doing that kind of slow networking idea, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to go, but all the feedback was brilliant. And lo and behold, there it is on the socials. They've done the face-to-face. That was a very different format, but everyone's raving about it. So that's brilliant. But you've got to be there to experience it, to give your own opinion.
From a marketing point of view, Paul, if you were a small business setting up next week, what were the levers you would pull to start generating awareness and letting people know that you're trading and you're doing business?
I think I would say the absolute first thing I would do would be to really clearly map out and understand what my USP is, what I'm going to tell people that I'm doing, and then go and tell them. First point, Facebook, friends, family, and then take that into the more kind of probably corporate channels of LinkedIn. Networking events, they're your places to go, because I think I touched on it earlier. It's going to build your confidence to talk about your business and who you are and what you're doing. And then have a look online and find if there's any kind of industry specific events that you can be going to, or webinars that you can be taking part in. Again, to share your story and share what the business is about and how you can essentially help people, sell to people, make their lives better.
Thanks again to my guest today, Paul Hart, founder of Cargo. You've been listening to Why Small Business Matters, a podcast brought to you by the Help to Grow Management Scheme at Northumbria University. Don't forget to check out our previous episodes over the last 3 years on Why Small Business Matters, where we've delved into leading experts in all areas of business, including networking, marketing, digital formation, internationalization, and much more besides. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of our future ones. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Why Small Business Matters.